Kimberly. I prepared a presentation today for you against the FDA. Before I begin, I would like to ask you all to turn off any electronic devices and hold all questions till the end. Does anyone have any questions on what I have just stated? Thank you. I would like to start off with a question. Do you trust your doctor? Two questions. Do you trust your doctor, or do you trust the FDA? With that question fresh in your mind, let me tell you about the 4 topics I am prepared to discuss with you. 1, what does the FDA do? 2, does the FDA follow through and uphold what they stand for? It's my body, it's my choice, and legal standpoints. What the FDA does. The Food and Drug Administration protects the public health by assuring the safety, effectiveness, and security of human and veterinary drugs, vaccines, and other biological products, medical devices, and products that give off radiation. They also regulate tobacco products and advance the public health by helping to speed product innovations. Now that we are clear on what they promise to do as a corporation in the U.S., let's take a closer look to see if they follow through what they say they stand for. I'm going to go ahead and leave this up here for the time being. That way, when I'm talking, you can look up and see where it fits in. Do they follow through with what they claim they stand for? Tuesday, on August 30th in 2005, from naturalnews.com, an interview titled "The FDA Exposed." Conducted by lead investigator Man Ladone, spoke with Dr. Gary Newell. The interview contained jaw-dropping insight about the corruption and crimes that take place every day inside the FDA. Dr. Graham had, at this point, been with the FDA for over 20 years as a senior drug and safety researcher. He is currently the Associate Director for Science and Medicine in the Office of Drug and Safety. Dr. Graham was asked a series of questions related to the FDA standards, ethics, and practices. You can find the entire interview on naturalnews.com. In the interview, Graham stated 2 problems. Problem number 1, and I quote, he said, "The structural problem that exists within the FDA, where people who approve the drugs are also the ones that oversee the post-marketing regulations. And this problem to this day remains unchanged." Problem number 2, and I quote, "The people who approve the drugs the people who approve a drug when they see that there is a safety problem are very reluctant to do anything about it because it will reflect badly on them. They continue to let the danger occur. America is just at risk now as it was in November, as it was 2 years ago, as it was 5 years ago." He also stated, the Prescription Drug User-Free Act in 1992 that Congress had passed as a way of providing the FDA with more funds so that it could hire more physicians and other scientists to review new drug applications so it could be approved more quickly. For industry, every day a drug is held up from being marketed represents a loss of about $1 million to $2 million. The incentive was to approve drugs as quickly as possible and not stand in the way of profit loss or lost profit. And the FDA cooperated with that mandate. Later in this interview, he explains, regarding the determination of the drug's effectiveness, I think the FDA does a pretty good job, so it does what it's supposed to do. However, he later explains on the safety side, I think the American public cannot be confident. Rarely will we keep a drug off the market or pull a drug off the market. Now that you've heard 2 or 3 major problems with the FDA, let's go ahead and dig a little deeper into our rights. Where I go to, it's my body, it's my choice. The Constitution and Bill of Rights does not grant us rights. They were written to list our inherent God-given right, to restrict the government summary of those rights. But if you do not know your rights, you are a prey to those who take advantage of your ignorance and extract you for money. As a patient, you are entitled to know everything relevant to your treatment, and based on that information to accept or refuse the treatment. The basic premise behind informed consent is pure common sense. It's your body, you have the right to live with the consequences of the treatment. Every hospital asks patients to sign a release form, which gives the institution the right to treat them. The details of that form vary from hospital to hospital. However, most doctor's office and hospitals will not sign you unless you sign that form first, before you know what the problem is, before you know the treatment that you're going to need. In my opinion, this form is a generic form. It does not outline the individual's treatment or case. And once you sign it, it's extremely difficult to back out of. With this consent form you sign, you allow to let someone else make the decision on whether or not you are given a safe and proven method of medical treatment, so long as it was approved by the FDA, which is admittedly flawed, as I just stated. For instance, a parent may be brought upon child neglect charges or even neglect homicide for not administering prescribed medications that they don't necessarily agree with, such as Prozac, which leads me to my next point, the legal standpoint. Because the FDA is reluctant to prevent marketing of a new drug and do not pull drugs and medical devices often enough off our shelves, thousands of citizens are being injured, and in some cases, death has occurred. Prozac and fluoride are two of those medications that, in the long run, it does more harm than good. Children's brain development came to a forefront as a concern in like 2007, after 3 medical studies were done that suggested that fluoride may have a detrimental effect on the IQ of children. Several studies published in 2007 showed shortcomings in previous researches. In acute cases where 1 ppm, parts per million, were ingested of fluoride, were known to cause a number of problems: nausea, abdominal pain, rashes, headaches, epigastrial distress, generalized weakness, and much more. Even 3 milligrams ingested of fluoride in a controlled clinical trial found to produce damage to the gastro muscles in even a healthy volunteer. Other studies found that fluoride is a contributing factor in IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And also, just 3 milligrams can kill a small child under the age of 6. I'm sure you're wondering, because I'm talking so much about fluoride, where Prozac comes into play. Well, Prozac is 94% fluoride. In China, Austria, Belgium, Finland, Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Netherlands, Japan, in many, many countries, they've all either banned it or reject the use of fluoride. They have also rejected or banned the use of Prozac. They have all found that having it in the drinking water has little to do with, or no effect at all, with the professional preventive measures in the dental healthcare field. Yet still the FDA has not pulled these two from the market. These are just 2 examples of the thousands of drugs that are out there. Now I have, well, that's just about all that I have prepared for you today. Let's go back and look through what we've learned. In conclusion, I have learned that there are some very uneasy facts about the FDA. We have learned that what they have promised to do is not, we have learned what they promised to do. We have learned that they do not follow through with all of those promises. We have also learned that it's our body and it's our choice, as well as some of these repercussions of not asking questions on the drugs we are given, just because the FDA has approved it. When you leave here today, I want you to remember to always ask the questions that you've always been afraid to ask. It's your body, it's your choice. Do your research. You do not have to listen to a physician. There are alternative remedies to illnesses that you should take into consideration. When you or someone you know is taking a FDA-approved drug and the side effects are bothersome, you must report those to the FDA. The more persistent and proactive we are, the more they're forced to fix the problem. The more they will listen. We as people need to start learning and stop letting others make the choice for us. We are the ones that have to live with the consequences of the treatment. Thank you all for coming today, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Does anyone have any questions? And don't forget, always ask the question.